something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
What the is that, dude?
Boo! Sorry, camera died halfway through the intro. That didn't work out terribly well. How are you, folks? Been a hell of a day. Had my hat on, you can probably tell. Didn't do my hair before the show. It's always the way, isn't it? I hope you've had a good day. Been a lovely day here in this part of the world at any rate. So thumbs up to that. I do apologise. Life got in the way last night on the way back from Bris Vegas, and in fact, once I got home, I wasn't able to get to do a show, but I'll make up for it. Saturday, we'll have a couple of chats on Saturday. I am hopeful of catching up with Michael from Ainsley Bullion. I haven't lined it up yet, but Saturday mornings he's usually available. So I'm hopeful that around 9 or 9:30 Saturday morning, we'll be able to catch up with Michael. And then a little later on in the day, we'll be catching up with the folks from the Corruption Whistleblower. Now, edition 3 is out now, I believe, so get a hold of that if you're interested in what happened at Port Arthur and the repercussions of it. It's an exceptional edition, so make sure you should have every copy, and you should frame them, keep them laminated, do something to make sure they don't fade away or get used for something to, wrap up the scraps in. These are newspapers that you should be putting in a library. They are absolutely magnificent sources of information, and I can't recommend them to you enough. I have copies here of edition number 2. If you want one, get in touch, carl@vofhq.com. A couple of people have written in and asked me to send them to them. I've just got to find out a price for bags to send them to you, so we'll sort it out, and we'll get onto that in the near future. But looking forward to catching up with them and seeing what is going on with February the 8th. Now, that is the grand jury indictments. If you're planning on coming to Canberra, look forward to seeing you there, hopefully in the bus. Fingers crossed. We're not going to talk generators, but I just want to get this water issue fixed and make sure that my nuts are tight, so to speak, on my exhaust manifolds, because I think I'm missing a few. Silver today, according to ainsleyBullion.com.au, is at $49.83. That's gone up, well, more than $1 since I looked at it. I think it was yesterday, the day before maybe. Gold, too, has shot up a little bit further. It's now at $4,450.67 an ounce. It is not too late to get in, folks, particularly on the silver market. I think we've been saying it has to go up, and it is going up. In fact, when I first started talking about silver, the price of an ounce of silver was about $38. Now, this is 18 months ago, might be a little bit longer than that. And less than 30, I think it was $36. So in that time, it's shot up to nearly $50. It's shot up at times to over $50, over $52. If you were, in part of that, then you've probably made $1 or $3. Keep your silver. It's going to be very useful to you. Peg's Place. You live down near Port Arthur, Peg. Yes, I understand. When I was down there, my host in Tasmania, Black Sheep, God love him, wonderful, wonderful man. He and I spent a fantastic day at Port Arthur. We drove down and did the whole thing. We did the Island of the Dead, and then hung around to do a nighttime tour as well, and then drove our way back. It was very interesting to learn so much of the history of Port Arthur, but also of that terrible massacre. And it was amazing just how many people I met while I was in Tasmania who had in some way been associated with events on that day or had intimate knowledge of events on that day. nobody that I spoke to in Tasmania now or ever did believe that the guy in jail for it, whose name escapes me right now, isn't that awful, is Martin Bryant. Sorry, stuck. Martin Bryant is actually guilty of the crime. He may have some intellectual disabilities and various other issues. However, there are certain elements of the timeline, particularly, that do not fit with him even being on site at Port Arthur at the time of the shootings. There are people that I spoke to who were exceptionally close to Bryant on the day he was taken into custody and in the days following. There were people that I've spoken to who named the shooter, and it wasn't the person they nailed for it. It certainly wasn't Martin Bryant. They explicitly named and detailed his history as a former military sniper and former police officer, who I believe now lives in South Africa. He has since the day after the massacre. So that's my understanding of the short story of it, at any rate. And that's what people of Tasmania have told me personally over a beer or two, quietly in, a backyard or in somebody's shed. So it's a very open secret down there in Tasmania that Bryant didn't have anything to do with it. But nobody can do anything about it. The only person who can open up those files, I believe, is the police commissioner, and the police commissioner is never going to do that, regardless which police commissioner it is. They've been placed under a great deal of pressure from various different organisations, and they're not releasing any details at all. However, you never know, the corruption whistleblower might have a few more details on the whole deal, and I would encourage you to find someone with an edition 3 or go to corruptionwhistleblower.com.au. You can buy your own there and they'll send it on out to you. I think you can actually download it if that is the case. So, yeah, worthwhile doing it. I've got to say a few hellos. Hello, Aussie Sue, first in the house tonight. God love you. G'day, Alan. Nice to have you in the house. G'day, Paul. All going well in your part of the world, I trust. Margot, God love you. I think you are doing a marvellous job in where you are in your part of the world. Tony, love you too, mate. Chris, hope you are doing all right. Doctors receiving Australia Day awards. What do I think about doctors receiving Australia Day awards? Well, I didn't hear Dr. William Bay getting any Australia Day award, and I wouldn't begrudge him getting one, I suppose. The problem is the award system is not one I really support at all. I think it's really just awarding you for your obedience at the end of the day. So I'm not at all surprised the doctors are getting Australia Day awards. A little saddened that they haven't stood up yet, the bastards. That's probably one of the sad things about it. I was in a chemist today or yesterday. They've still got to sign up, come and get your free jab. I don't know what they're up to now, number 6 or 7. The last show I did, by the way, got banned on YouTube. So they had me for medical misinformation. That's what they've said. But they gave me an area in the show to go and look at. And not only was there no medical misinformation in there, we weren't even talking about COVID as such. So I'm completely unsure as to why. Well, I think I've got a bit of an idea of why it got banned. Might have something to do with that last video I played. However, that show is still available over at the other place that starts with an R and ends with an umble, and you'll be able to check that show out if you missed it, particularly the last few minutes. There's an interesting video that everybody, I believe, should see. Salty Convict, good to have you in the house. And Sandy, lovely to see you in too. Chaos is back. And, oh, yes, Peg's place has been in. G'day, Gavin. What have you got to say? Mental health spits. Hang on a minute. Mental health spits on the Magna Carta. Billy Bay is compelled to refer certain people to mental health. What a joke. I'm lost, Gavin. Mental health spits on the Magna Carta. All right. Which Magna Carta would be my first question. And I'm unsure of what you mean by mental health spitting on it. Magna Carta isn't known for its mental health articles, I'm pretty confident, but I could be wrong. Billy Bay is compelled to refer certain people to mental health. Well, I guess he's also compelled to report children who come in with bruises that are suspicious. He's compelled to report adults with children who don't appear to be their parents. And a child who might be injured or nervous or whatever. There are a lot of things doctors are compelled to do. And I'm sure if somebody comes in exhibiting signs of mania, maybe, or severe suicidal ideation, then yes, they do have an obligation to report people for mental health. I think. I'm just not sure where you're going at with that. You got a problem with Bill? If that's the case, let me know. I'll keep reading. I think a guy who has suffered certainly through this whole ordeal has been Billy Bay. I think he's lost a family out of it. It's been very, very, very hard work on him. G'day, Jinder Lee. Hope you're all right, brother. Things going well in your part of the world. Yeah, Daniel, that happens to a lot of us, unfortunately. G'day, Pete from Pinaroo. Hope you are well. The lovely Connie is in the house, and I hope you're doing well, Dale. You and Alan are going well. I'll just have a bit of a glance down here. Pegs. Oh, liability, mate. Yes, there are a couple of very good new productions coming out about the jabs. Now, one of them is called Apocalypse COVID. There is another one which I have up here somewhere called Witness Statement, the full documentary. Now, I want to say this is an Australian documentary and well worth having a look at. You will find that in the other place. But I'll just post that link in there. I've only just begun watching this myself. It's on the Global Truth Network, and I don't think it's too bad. But like I say, I've only watched a very short little bit of it so far. I plan on trying to give it a bit of a look tonight if all things go well. Okay. Having a bit of a glance down here. Now, I'm noticing Sunflower isn't in the room. Chaos, sorry. You just maybe haven't been active in the chat, or I haven't seen you active in the chat. So I apologise for that. I never thought you'd departed us. There is one name that's missing in tonight's chat, and if I'm honest, I think she's probably not been in the last couple, and that's Sunflower. Now, I received a message from Sunflower yesterday, I think it was, or late last night. Her husband, Rick, is not well at the moment. So she's been taking care of him and the family, of course. So if you are a prayer and you can offer a few for Sunflower, I would really appreciate you all coming together and offering your prayers for a speedy recovery for Rick and what he's going through. There's nothing he is ever going to fully recover from. He's just going through a bit of a bad time with things at the moment. So if you can offer up your prayers in support of Sunflower and Rick, I would really appreciate it. Thank you for everybody who'll be part of that. Aussie Sue, God love you. I hope things are going well up there in your part of the world as well. And Donna Lee ads. I think I said hi to Paul. And we talked about the Silver Pool. Yep, you're right. Things are going in the right direction. We love it when a plan comes together. And like I say, Saturday morning, with a little bit of luck, I will be chatting with the man himself, Michael from Ainsley Bullion. Fingers crossed I'll get somebody up. And just so you know what you're looking for the corruption whistleblower I mentioned before, this is the 3rd edition front page. The Australian government past and present members wanted for questioning under trial of the facts. And the people are questioning the prearranged domestic terrorist attack at Port Arthur and the bioterrorist mass extinction event currently in progress. So a lot of information in the corruption whistleblower, and you can find a lot of people selling them around the country. Hopefully somebody near you has copies, but if not, go to corruptionwhistleblower.com.au and download or get a copy delivered through there. All right, now, what have I got to show you this evening? Well, there's a couple of interesting little pieces. Let's begin with this. Did you know that the last president before Trump to take the presidential oath of office without a hand on the Bible was John F. Kennedy? I've got to admit, I didn't know that. It was I thought it strange that Trump didn't have his hand on the Bible during the inauguration. It was a family Bible, I believe, too, that his wife was holding. Why? What sort of signal does that give, particularly to the evangelical Christian movement that he appealed to so strongly back in 2016 and who have followed him through 2020 and now 2024? I haven't seen any reason given why President Trump didn't place his hand on the Bible. And I'm wondering whether or not the oath is in fact lawful if he hasn't placed his hand on the Bible. But it didn't seem to worry JFK. What similarity there? I don't know. It could be just one of those little furphy things that gets thrown around on the internet, as so many are, and it's an interesting little quirk, but that's about it. Now, I've been trying to look up exactly which bill from 1869 which will allow him to make Britain a state of America. Now, some have said that this has been on the cards for a long time. My understanding is, through the US postal system, that Britain has in fact been in control of America since the end of the, was it the Civil War or the war with the Redcoats? Now, it looked like the British got defeated. I beg your pardon, it wasn't the British, it was the Spanish. So this is where there was I guess that must have been the first war, funded by France and Spain. The Americans fought each other and reparations were due. The way that reparations are paid in the royal world, they get control of countries. But in the royal world, there is a hierarchy. And at the time, the British hierarchy were at the pinnacle. And while France and Spain were squabbling over the spoils of war, Britain, whose leader at the time, king at the time, I forget, came out and said, bugger you both, we're going to assume control of the US. And they did so through the Postmaster General's office. They planted their own people into the system, and essentially the system has been perverted toward the City of London, not the UK or the royals particularly, but the City of London got involved at this time. And of course, once the City of London was involved, there was the other war, the battle for North and South, so to speak. Washington, D.C. was created. And of course, we know that that became a city within, or a country within a country as well, Washington, D.C., the same as the City of London, and the Vatican, the three axes of power for the deep state. So how does America gain control of the UK? I am unsure. I can't see a path to that if what I've explained to you is even vaguely correct. I can't see a path to it. Doesn't mean that one doesn't exist. It would involve an invasion of the UK, much like an invasion of Australia. Now, when I say invasion, it will look like a parade. It will look like, American warships coming into Sydney Harbour, but they'll have their guns trained on Kirribilli and the Governor-General's house. And they'll make a declaration. That's how it'll be. And they could do the same if they can sail up the Potomac and get guns on any part of Washington, D.C., particularly the White House and the Pentagon or the Capitol building. Now they're allies. So at the moment it's possible they could probably sail up the Potomac to a point. Although at the moment, unfortunately, there has been a disaster from Ronald Reagan Airport in Washington, D.C., a plane, light plane, regional aircraft coming in from Kansas, I think it was, with 60 people on board, has hit a military helicopter that got in the way as this aircraft was on final approach to landing at Ronald Reagan Airport. So far, reports indicate they've pulled 18 bodies from the Potomac River. There were 60 people on board the jet and 3 people on board the military helicopter. Trump has come out and quite angrily attacked both air traffic control and the military pilots. Military pilots, for those that are unaware, have a great deal of freedom when they're flying around. They're pretty much autonomous. They don't have to talk to air traffic control, but they do have to be aware of everything around them, which would include them listening to air traffic control. One would wonder why this helicopter, for whatever reason, hadn't been listening to air traffic control, or just had a death wish with these 3 people on board, because it appears from vision that is available of the accident that this helicopter flew pretty much directly into the approaching regional, jet, for want of a better term. It's probably a turboprop, and smashed straight into it. So these military aircraft have all sorts of warning systems that, and same does the jet, all sorts of warning systems telling them about aircraft in proximity, close proximity. So something very strange is going on with that, and I guess we're going to have to wait around a little while to find out what, if anything, is further behind that. Speaking of things, what, if anything, is further behind, I've got to say, you, like me, may have been a little bit shocked to discover, a few things. First of all, the Australian that was captured in Ukraine, fighting for Ukraine against the Russians and feared dead, the same Australian that the Aussie Cossack offered himself up in a prisoner swap for, has been found alive in Russia. The Russians have said, yes, he's alive, he is with us. They have been reminded of their duties to prisoners of war, and I have no doubt that guy is enjoying a meal of, probably cold cabbage and water once a day at least, while he is being held during this period. The fact that he is Australian might keep him alive, and the fact that the Aussie Cossack is talking about it might also keep him alive. I'm not sure that the Aussie Cossack is still planning on offering himself up. I'm sure he is as a prisoner swap, but will the Cossack be going to cold cabbage and water? Or, I'm just wondering what sort of intel he can bring. I'm wondering what sort of intel the other guys got, let's be honest. Something rather interesting happened in Sydney on January the 19th, but we only found out about it yesterday. And it is probably one of the more concerning things. However, watching the news play out on this over the last 24 hours or so, more and more, this whole thing starts to smell like a setup. What am I talking about? I'm talking about a caravan full of explosives that was found on a street in Dural, New South Wales. That's in the northwestern suburbs of Sydney. Now, the caravan was parked in a weird way, dropped on the street. It had been there since December the 7th, and a resident decided to go and have a bit of a look and see what was going on with this caravan on January the 19th. He opened the door of the caravan. Whether he forced it open or not, I don't know. And inside found, well, quite a lot of explosives. The whole thing was packed, apparently, with explosives. It was packed with power gel, which is a very significant explosive. Now, a couple of things about this. When the van was taken off the street, moved in off the side of the road, police were called. They've gone through it. They've found, it appears, an address for something Jewish and some names, some targets, I assume Jewish, and they have assumed that this is an anti-Semitic attack. I don't know a lot about anti-Semitic attacks, and I don't know a lot about bombs, and I don't know a lot about fanaticism. All I know is what I've seen, and it's my belief and understanding that should a fanatic who is willing to go and detonate a caravan load full of explosives get a caravan load full of explosives, they generally don't park it on the side of the road just anywhere and leave it for 6 to 8 weeks. Generally, the fanatics action this kind of bomb very, very quickly. Usually that level of explosives, that amount of explosives to fill up a caravan, explosives in this country are monitored very, very closely. There are only a few places in this country where you can get power gel. Now, how did what must be more than 100 boxes of power gel wind up on the side of a road in a caravan for 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks? If there was going to be some sort of anti-Semitic attack, it would have happened, you would have thought, sometime in that 6 to 8 weeks. In fact, there were so many Jewish celebrations and Christian celebrations over that period, there would have been no shortage of targets. But no, this just happened to sit, just happened to have some addresses found in it, just happened to have some names found in it. Didn't happen to have any detonators found in it, I will point out. At least that hasn't been mentioned at this stage. One of the things that really did get up my nose was what the New South Wales Deputy Police Commissioner, Dave Hudson, said. Now, as far as I'm concerned, Dave Hudson, you should never, ever be made commissioner. In fact, you should probably resign, because what he said is a very biased statement, said without any real evidence. I'm not trying to offer up excuses here. I'm just trying to say the mainstream media are proffering a story here that doesn't have any evidence. So on Wednesday, he said it was possible, and I'm quoting here, it was possible the explosives found had formed part of a plan to carry out some form of anti-Semitic attack. I would counter that by saying it's just as possible that the explosives were not some form of anti-Semitic attack. It's just as possible that it's something completely different. It could be a targeting of something very Australian, like Australia Day. Bear in mind, the plan was thwarted on January 19. So if it was anti-Semitic, why wouldn't they have done something when the synagogues were full sometime between December the 7th and, let's say, January the 1st, with a caravan load full of explosives, rather than leave it sitting on the side of a road? that nobody, not even the local police, right? The police who drive past every day and see a caravan parked in a weird manner on the side of a busy road, they don't even stop to check for 6 to 8 weeks. Does this start to smell a bit weird to you? Does it start to smell a bit convenient? It does to me. We're now being told by the Australian Federal Police that, and New South Wales Police are quoting that they believe the people that they have arrested in conjunction with this caravan, and they've arrested a few, are just dumb fools, puppets to those who are actually instigating all of this. They're overseas, apparently. Well, could it be the Mossad overseas instigating these sorts of... This isn't an anti-Semitic attack, but our Prime Minister, probably our potential Prime Minister, certainly a whole heap of other ministers and anybody on Sky News, and I assume most of the other mainstream media, are screaming anti-Semitic. It could possibly be some form of anti-Semitic attack. That statement is false and misleading. It's prejudicial. It's not something you would expect to come from a deputy police commissioner. It could just as easily have been, it's just as possible that that caravan load full of explosives came from a pissed off Parramatta supporter who wanted to see Penrith begin the 2025 NRL season with a real bang. Isn't it just that possible? That's just as possible. I have just as much evidence, circumstantial or otherwise. So I would just ask that that's a little bit weird. It smells to me like an intelligent setup story. Could be wrong, but let's go through the points. Caravan parked on the side of the road for 6 to 7 weeks, 8 weeks. No police drive past checking it. None of them, not at all, ever. Not over the Christmas New Year period when we're all supposed to be on alert for weird and suspicious things. No police in Dural bothered looking at this thing at all. Nobody in the public reported it. Nobody in the public reported a caravan parked weirdly on their street for 6 to 7 weeks, although it was a member of the public who eventually went over and looked in it. The weird thing for me is Taylor, the young lady who's staying here at the moment, can testify to this. Now, this is the Gold Coast. She left her caravan parked on the side of the road for 2 weeks and a junkie moved into it, tore it apart. She got a whole heap of her stuff stolen. And, she had to kick this prick out, which she did in no uncertain fashion, can I tell you. Well, Sydney has a homeless issue just like the Gold Coast does. It also has a junkie issue just like the Gold Coast does. And the western suburbs are pretty much known for their junkies as well. So I'm not tainting anybody here or pointing fingers. I'm just saying no homeless or junkie person broke into that caravan looking for a bed in 6 to 8 weeks on the side of the road in Dural. She was out of her van for a week on the side of a road in a busy suburb on the Gold Coast. And some junkie moves in and trashes the joint and then had plans on getting the thing dragged away so he could live in it forever. No thieves broke into it in 6 to 7, 8 weeks. No thieves. No inquisitive kids going past on their bikes, peeking in the windows, trying to shake the doors open, saying, oh, that's a bit weird. It's a caravan full of explosives. The people with anti-Semitic intentions would use a caravan full of explosives before it could get busted, before it could be found, before it could be exposed. They would leave what is being quoted by police as a 40-meter blast zone. Now, that doesn't mean that's how big the bomb would be. The blast affected area is much broader than that. But anything within that 40-meter zone would be dead. Destroyed completely. 40 meters is a pretty big zone, pretty big bomb, make a hell of a mess on Australia Day. What do you got to do? Drive along the cliffs at Bondi, towing your caravan. There might be better places down around the Harbour Bridge, down around Circular Quay. I don't know. I've never thought about it. Somebody obviously has. But were they anti-Semitic, or was this an attack maybe on Australians? I think it's something we should keep in mind rather than leap to conclusions as the vaunted police force, not service, force, want to do. The mainstream media are directing you to think a certain way about it. I'm not defending the Jews or anything in this matter. I'm not defending anybody, or I'm not trying to offer excuses. All I am saying here is that we are being fed a story. And mainstream media is doing this broadly. The question is why? Are our intelligence and security services looking into the potential that it is the Israeli intelligence service paying the money to disgruntled, I don't know, Palestinians, Lebanese, Muslims? I don't know. Could it be that? They're saying the money's coming from overseas. They're also saying, and the they is the New South Wales Police Force, they're saying that the AFP aren't talking to them very much anymore. They had a bit of a falling out, apparently, when the AFP announced that it looked like the last synagogue attack, which was a bit of a fire, I think, was just a couple of lowlifes who were paid from an overseas crypto account. That was information the New South Wales Police didn't have, and their nose was a little bit out of joint about that because they were working on other fields of endeavour, of course. So there seems to be an information sharing breakdown between the New South Wales Police Force and the Australian Federal Police. Could that have anything to do with what we're seeing here? I don't know. I would ask that you keep an open mind on that, a very open mind. Lyndon, I've just caught this comment. We're talking about aircraft descending and ascending. Okay, TACM. Yeah, well, TACM is military only, remember. Only military aircraft have TACM. So the civilian aircraft would have something similar, an aircraft avoidance system. But the helicopter, I would assume, being military, would have TACM, but not all of them do. It was a Black Hawk, so it's probably anywhere up to 15 years old, but they usually keep them pretty well serviced and up to date. Flying around Washington, you got to think that it'd have all the bells and whistles. So, yeah, there is some weird stuff going on. Weird stuff in that world, I tell you. Yeah, just keep an open mind about all this anti-Semitism bullshit that's going on at the moment. Also, keep watching because the media, the mainstream media in this country, are going to be working exceptionally hard to convince you of your next parliamentary choices. I'm going to give you a little bit of an idea of potentially where you should think about voting if you are in fact planning on voting. I can tell you that there might be some other choices available to us in an independent sense, and one of those will be coming out of South Australia, and I'm hopeful that actually there'll be at least two out of Western Australia. I'm pretty confident that a third out of Western Australia is actually trying to start her own party. Whether or not that actually comes through or not, I don't know. She will certainly most definitely stand as an independent, and by God, she'd get my vote if she had it. So we were talking about AI when we were last together, and particularly the new Chinese AI. It's having a few problems, as we discussed in the last show, but it's been asked some more serious questions And one of those questions was, who would be the better Prime Minister in Australia, Albo or Dutton for China? And this thing has come back and said Albanese would be the preferred choice for the Communist Party of China. Why? Because he's shown a demonstrated desire to work with them and not against them, even in the midst of security concerns. Well, that's because he lays down whenever those sort of security concern talks happen. They hand back somebody they've been holding for a long time, and Albo walks away looking like he's had a win, but we are still in the same position. So at least the Chinese AI is being truthful about something. Not always the way it can be. How often have you seen citric acid on something? I've seen citric acid on things in a long time, and I've on many things, and I've not really turned my mind to it, but my immediate thought of citric acid is that it is some sort of citrus-based acid. We would be wrong. When the word citric acid appear on a food ingredient list, many believe it comes from limes or lemons. I did. The truth is that citric acid is in fact a poison and comes from genetically modified black mold. This is not by accident. Hiding known toxins in food for the masses to consume is actually a form of spiritual warfare carried out by evil forces in correct attempt to lower the population vitality and natural vibrational frequency. How much stuff has citric acid in it that you buy? Go and have a look in your pantry when we're finished here. I did today. I don't have much in the pantry. Everything had citric acid in it. So go and have a little look. I found it most interesting. You might too. So have you any questions, folks? I have not too much more to tell you. You'll have a diary for me. Thanks, Sab. Love your work. If you've got any questions, let me know. Sunflower, hello, you beautiful woman. I got your message. I meant to call you today. I will be calling you tomorrow. So if you've got a time, message me, and or I'll give you a call tonight if that suits you, if you're still up. Looking forward to catching up. Just having a bit of a read of some of your comments here, folks, to see if I can chime in on anything. Wow. Your brother's in Kensington Gardens, and most streets have people sleeping in cars, up to 40 in one night's evening's walk. Yeah, there are places like that on the Gold Coast too, although the Gold Coast Council moves them along. I think the Sunshine Coast Council is now doing the same thing. Many councils, particularly along the coastal reaches of Queensland, are doing that. Many others, on the other hand, many inland towns are reaching out, particularly through Victoria. On your way to Adelaide, I know if you're following the main route and even off that route, there are many, many RV-friendly town signs as you're coming into little towns, and they do love you pulling up and stopping, whether it just be to call into the bakery for morning tea or to spend the night and have a bit of a wander around and check things out. Pinaroo is an example of that. It's a little RV-friendly town. They've got a free RV park right behind the Golden Grain Hotel, well, very close to it at any rate, and a great little museum that you can go and have a walk through if you happen to get there at a time when it's open, unlike what I did. You might even be lucky enough to get Pete from Pinaroo to take you for a guided tour. He knows a bit about that land out there. So, yeah, all going well in a beautiful land. You'll get to go and check that out someday. But if you do go travelling, folks, make sure if you're going through Victoria, you call in through the Halls Gap area in the Grampians. They're doing it very hard there at the moment. Through Christmas, New Year, it's usually full up. Caravan Parks Resort, there are a couple of retreat-type resorts there from memory, and caravan parks, great fishing at Lake Belfield, and a few other lakes within very, very close proximity, a great little golf course. And of course, the fires came through the area, ravaging so much of the Grampians. Many people cancelled their Christmas holidays there because they feared the whole place was just a blackened mess and people would be putting stuff back together. That wasn't entirely the case. Certainly was the case in some areas, but the town, the area of Halls Gap, really needs your support. So if you're planning a little weekend getaway, I don't think we've got another long weekend until March, and I want to say it's March the 10th in Victoria. Now, I'm going to aim to be down around there around that time, and I'm trying to get a few people together, maybe for a bit of a game of golf or something around the parks, a fishing competition in one of the lakes, and see if we can't pump a few dollars back into the local economy of Halls Gap. I know there are a couple of people from my place who I've spoken to about the idea. My place at the moment working very hard on their Unity Hub and their Our Place setup, but nothing's impossible, and we all like to band together and help our neighbours. Trevor the Prepper is not far from that part of the world, so I know Trevor'd like to be involved with something like that too. So if we can do that, then we'll be looking for that. What's going up with Townsville, Mackay, Cairns? Oh, look, there's a lot of weird stuff going up far north Queensland. The biggest weird thing at the moment is storms. About to get, I believe, the first cyclone of the season up there. I think this weekend they are expecting 1 metre of rain in far north Queensland. Now, I'm not sure if that's from the Cape down or from Tully or Ingham up, but there is a lot of rain coming to far north Queensland and North Queensland over the weekend. I won't be heading back up to far north Queensland until it gets a bit cooler. I'm trying to keep the bus, because I've got a water issue, I'm trying to keep the bus running out of the real heat until we make sure we've got this water issue fixed. So hopefully that we've been missing each other in the dark, so to speak. So hopefully we'll get to that early next week, and I'll be on the way to Canberra for February the 3rd. Oh, no, I beg your pardon. I don't have to be in Canberra now February the 3rd, because there is another good bit of news today. February the 3rd was the date set down for Paul Offey's trial. That's the Freedom Truck driver. Now, Paul Offey's Supreme Court trial. Where do I begin with this? Today, there was a hearing. We thought that hearing could have gone one of two ways. It actually went a very different way, very good way. So it went better than we felt it could have gone. And it now appears that the case will not go to trial until, well, there'll be some discussions in March, but there's a chance that it will be pressed back through April, May and June. That is because Paul's lawyer is unwell and is taking some treatment. And Paul himself was admitted last week to Adelaide Hospital, and there was a detailed report written about his condition and why he was in the state he was in. He was dehydrated and a few other bits and pieces. Of course, he's very worried about what's going on with this case at the moment. It is his life. They've got 40 years hanging over his head. And if I say so, without the case being actually in court yet, there are, in my assessment of the facts, there are severe, blatant indications that these charges have been brought forward maliciously in many cases. Having said that, the prosecution are trying to negotiate a better outcome for Paul and a better outcome for everybody in general. They are offering to drop certain charges, which would mean that the case gets dropped back out of the Supreme Court and gets back to the Magistrates' Court. Now, if it gets to the Magistrates' Court, he would be expected to plead guilty to certain other charges. I'm not sure that Paul is inclined. He never has been inclined to plead guilty to any of the charges that they've levelled against him. And we have a phenomenal body of evidence and a large number of witnesses to bring to the party the prosecution still has not supplied all of the required information that has been requested under Freedom of Information. And certainly the AFP have not provided everything that we've requested under Freedom of Information as well. A lot of that revolves around body cam footage and certainly some other very interesting communications leading up to the event. I think the safest thing for the DPP to do would be to withdraw all the charges and make an offer of compensation to him before he sues them for tens of millions of dollars. Because Paul Offey is not a man, I don't believe, who's going to plead guilty to a crime he doesn't believe he committed. And like I say, we have a lot of supporting evidence. The trial, the prosecution said, was going to last 3 days. We've since straightened that out. The trial is scheduled for 14 days at this stage and could go 4 weeks, given the large number of witnesses we plan to call and the cross-examinations of those that will go on. Of course, the prosecution will have their witnesses too. And boy, are we looking forward to the police they put on the stand. Just saying. So, the DPP in the ACT might want to have a think about how they're going to play this going forward, because there are an awful lot of interesting precedents that have been set recently. And now would be a good time to either avail themselves of that knowledge or reach out with a genuine offer, would be my advice. But yes, a very positive day for Paul and the team. And I wish Paul's lawyer all the best. Paul's barrister is the same barrister that represented Nick Patterson. And you can imagine that he has been under a great deal of stress himself for the last few years. So he has obviously got some illness that requires some treatment. The judge saw fit today, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court saw fit today to grant an extension, which is really the best we could hope for. Why is it the best we could hope for? Well, because if they hadn't have granted an extension, it could have been that the trial started on February the 3rd, and it could have been that the trial started without Paul being able to gain proper legal representation for a couple of reasons. One of those being is that the court has demanded that Paul puts $200,000 in a trust fund to cover the costs of the witnesses and the court case, should he lose. He has to raise that money, obviously. They don't have anywhere near that sort of money around. They've got about 50, 60,000. And we're looking for more donations there. So freedomtruck.com, you'll be able to help out there if you can. And we are looking for a couple of reasonable benefactors who can help secure at least that money in the trust account. We believe the case is exceptionally strong, even in the definitely in the Supreme Court. In fact, we believe we've got an unwinnable case in the Supreme Court. We're not really entertaining the Magistrates Court idea, I believe, because Paul won't plead guilty to anything at all. He doesn't believe he has committed any crime. What he does know is that the AFP and the COCA department of the Department of Public Prosecutions in Canberra, the COCA department is that responsible for proceeds of crime. And that is how they have hamstrung the truck and managed to keep it out of Paul's use for the last 3 years. Now, what COCA do is they secure all the assets a target like Paul has and lock them down, saying they are proceeds of crime and can't be sold. They can't use those assets as support to go and get loans, to get lawyers and all that sort of stuff. It in effect cuts people off from their assets and their ability to gain any benefit from those assets when they need some financing for a legal case. It's an absolutely shitful tactic by a bunch of gutless lawyers who have weaponized this system against citizens like Paul. Citizens is a bad word, I apologize. But against folks like Paul, when it should be used against the drug kingpins, the mafiosos, the deep staters, the criminals in our community. Not a guy who's got, is 3 times brain injured, only has goodness in his heart, only wants to help people, only wants a job that he can do and put a smile on people's faces, which was build the truck of his dreams, get his limousine license, and take people on drives around the Gold Coast. That truck was also due to star in a movie. Well, the movie's been put off. The movie production company behind it, I will believe, will be having serious talks with their lawyers about how they can talk to the AFP about some compensation for the huge losses that they've incurred in the production of the movie the bus was booked for, the truck was booked for. This is a huge issue, and it's not going to run away from the ACT DPP or the people that once were running the coca department there. I think there are new people, or at least there is a bit of new blood in the coca department. I think they are very wise to the fact they've been caught trying to sell Paul's vehicle at least once. We had that blocked. They were very unhappy about that. That's what they do. They keep your asset for 3 months and they sell it. They keep the money then in a trust, and if you win, you get the money back for whatever they sold your asset for. Doesn't mean you got market value for it. And very interestingly, we have magnificent audio of the truck driver, of the police officer who climbed into the truck while all 4 cameras were still running inside the cab. And all his statement was, "Oh, I want this truck." Well, I wonder who was going to put in the lowest bid. Well, that didn't happen. We managed to stop that in a very interesting day in court. But they are sneaky bastards, and we've caught them at every turn. Well, maybe not every turn, because they're going to be sneaky right up to the very end. I just can't understand why they don't cut their losses and go. Because, well, maybe this is the case where it will expose everything for everyone. And if that is the case, let's get into it. All right, folks. Kang, what are you saying here? Anyone else get the feeling Australia is a deep state-run island? Oh, shit, only since Cook arrived. Oh, I beg your pardon. Not since Cook arrived. Since the first fleet arrived. Since Arthur Phillip got here. Was that who it was? Mate, we've been an experiment. This nation has been an experiment for the British Empire from day dot. From the day they set foot here, we have been under their control. We are certainly a cabal nation. Our politics have been corrupted from the word go. So, yeah, you've hit it on the head. Good one, J1. Don't mind that idea myself. In fact, I see, I don't know how many years ago now. When did I get my drone license? So probably close to 10 years ago. Took an idea to a security company about using drones to patrol certain areas. And it was well received. At the time, we were well ahead of what CASA would allow to be flying around, and we probably still would be. However, we figured out other solutions, tethered drones, all sorts of interesting things that we could do with cameras and all that. However, it was all a bit cutting edge at the time and fairly expensive. When I say fairly expensive, the drones we were looking at using were, from memory, about $3,500 each. If we were tethering them, then there was another cost there. The cameras were the expensive part. You needed night vision and thermal cameras, and you needed the ability to zoom, that sort of thing. There was a lot of cost involved. So, yes, great idea. If you want to invest in a drone security company, maybe we can talk. I know some people who would be very interested. Peg, I like that. Funny, America got independence from the UK in 1776, so they came here to try it out in 1788. Yeah. History is an interesting thing, isn't it? Even though it's been written by them, they highlight their dates. So, yeah, it's interesting to see how it all works. Your drone blew away, Dan. Mate, my first drone, I landed in a creek. So I understand. If your drone blew away, you picked a bad day to fly. We were actually talking fixed wing drones as well, so we could travel from one end of the Gold Coast to the other very rapidly, with very good cameras on board, and doing it all at 400 feet or below. That's why we had trouble with CASA. They hadn't yet figured out air corridors for remote control aircraft or autonomous flight aircraft. And at the time we were trying to put all this together, I think Amazon were just starting to test their autonomous drone system, delivery systems in the States. So, yeah, it was pretty early on when we were talking about this. But, yeah, wouldn't be the worst thing a drone surveillance company to be invested in, I can tell you that. All right, folks, I'm going to love you and leave you tonight. Sunflower, God love you. I hope you and Rick are doing okay. I did ask everybody to send their prayers for Rick and a speedy recovery, or getting as better as he can get. And I will talk to you sooner rather than later. Send me a message if you're still going to be up tonight, and I'll give you a bell. Outside of that, tomorrow night, I talked to Guru today. Now, he had a great movie he put out last night. Don't think it's the same one I put up there, although it could be. As I say, I haven't watched it yet. If you would like me to paste that link up again, this is from a newly produced documentary called Witness Statement. And the first little bit that I've watched is quite powerful. So I imagine that the other 2.5 hours is going to be pretty much the same way. So the link is there in the description. I want to just tell you a quick story about X39 patches. You may remember Dwayne, who I've shown to you on a couple of videos. He works around here on the property with me. He's a old bushy, great guy. We've done a great how to fillet a fish video, which I haven't cut together yet, and I'll probably post up on FBN. Some people may not like to watch how a fish is gutted and filleted, but one day it could be a thing you really need to learn. So we'll post that up. It's up to you whether or not you watch it. And he's had a bit of a crook knee. Now, when I say a crook knee, I've never heard him complain about anything. He's tough as an old iron nail. However, I think it was his right knee has been playing up really badly from behind the knee. Not a dislocated knee or whatever, but he's been having some real issues with what I thought would be the cruciate or the medial ligament. He's been massaging it a bit and carrying it on. I did say in a show that I was going to give him an X39 patch to put on his leg. Well, he went home. I think I said that we'd need a bloody good razor or a chainsaw to get through the hairs on his leg. He went home and burnt the hairs off his leg and then stuck the patch on. I said, it's probably working on your burns first, but at any rate, leave it on. He stuck it on for 24 hours, leg fixed. Burn, no burn. What burn? No burn. So the knee came good, and there was no burn after he burnt his own hairs off his leg to put the patch on. Some blokes. So if you've got pain, what can I say? Try it. The link is there scrolling across the bottom of the screen. I can't recommend them to you highly enough. I have a packet of them right here beside me. I don't use them every day, although I'm not in pain every day. But there are days, particularly neck, shoulder, and back get me. So as long as I can get one of those on me occasionally, I have no problems whatsoever. It removes headaches. It removes aches and pains in other places, hips, particularly knees, as we've discovered. And, of course, it's changed the lives of so many people who've watched this show, many of whom who've sent me their testimonials and their notes of, well, they say thanks, but I'm just so glad it's worked for so many of you. I am so sad that for some of you it hasn't worked, but can't work for everybody, I guess. I wish to God it could. But for those that it has been a spectacular success. Robert, thank you. You can vouch for X39. It's changed my life. It's changed many people's lives. So I can tell you that if you are currently buying through that link, then you are going to get an email in the next day or two about a meeting next Wednesday night that is going to show you something pretty spectacular. If you are interested in making money out of this business or turning it into a small business for yourself, and you're a bit worried about how that's done, then there will be a meeting with Tim and Corinne next Wednesday night. I'll be in that too at some point after my show, so that we can all learn together the 7 steps to make this a success in your life and help change your life and others' lives that you can introduce the X39 patch to. It really is spectacular. And like I say, if you've tried everything else, if you are taking opioid medication or other sorts of really high-end pain meds, and you want to get off them, that's the thing. I think you've got to have a desire somewhere in you to not be taking that kind of medication. Then in conjunction with weaning yourself off, I would try the X39 patches and see what a difference they make in your life. And I can point you in the direction of many people, if you want to talk to them, who will tell you just how much it's changed theirs. Anyway, folks, love you, leave you tonight. I've been chatting for longer than I normally do, and I'm sorry to keep you going. But anyway, I'm making up for not being around last night. And as I said, Saturday, we will look at making up a couple of shows. I want to catch up with Michael from Ainsley Bullion, see what's going on in the markets at the moment. Silver again stronger today, as we pointed out at the start of the show. Hopefully it still will be tomorrow and over the weekend. And get ready, folks. Buy a little bit of it. If you're figuring, oh, gee, I can't buy a ton of silver right now, then I can't recommend the Ainsley Saver account to you highly enough. If you go to ainsleyBullion.com.au, you'll see the Ainsley Saver banner there. Click on that. And I think you can do that on our website as well, vofhq.com. Click on that. It'll take you straight through to the Ainsley Saver website. You can register. That's free. And you can incrementally purchase gold and silver in whatever measure you like. I think the minimum is a $50 deposit. And if you sign up to put $50 in, say, every fortnight or $50 a month or whatever you choose, you can put a lot more in, of course, then you will be buying precious metal. And once you've got enough of it to actually hold in your hand, you can take it out and hold it in your hand if you desire. Or you can trade it for crypto, or you can pay bills with it with cash if that's what you want to do. The Ainsley Saver is a great way for you to start your journey into the precious metals market. And ainsleyBullion.com.au is where you'll find all the information about it. Or you can pop into their Melbourne or Brisbane offices and talk to one of the team directly, because they're bloody great people and love to talk. Have a great night, folks. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Be safe on the roads. Those dickheads are out there, so duck and weave, eh?
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure... You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!